Her name is Jora, the Norn warrior. This is her story. Jora's upbringing was much the same as all Norn. From a young age, she was taught to hunt in the wilderness, along with her brother, Svanir. She led an average Norn childhood, and became a mighty hunter with her brother by her side. One day, in the year 1078 AE, Jora and Svanir had heard reports of some wild wolves causing problems around Drakkar Lake, a place most Norns shun and dare not tread. These wolves had become extremely hostile, more so than usual, and were injuring travellers passing by the frozen lake. Being master wolf hunters, Jora and Svanir were sent out to slay the troublesome beasts. Upon arriving at the lake, they located the wolf pack, and although it was a struggle, they managed to slay the wolves, which had clearly gone mad and possessed some abnormal abilities that neither Jora nor Svanir had seen before. However, this was the least of Jora's concerns. As they made their way back to Olafstead, they foolishly passed over Drakkar Lake, and suddenly they both began to hear a voice in their minds. This voice tried to seduce them by offering them untold power and greatness. Jora was naturally afraid of this voice and tried to block it from her mind while stepping away from the lake. It was at that moment that she noticed that Svanir stood gazing tranquilly at the ice-covered surface. Jora called out to her brother and begged him not to listen, but Svanir wanted the power he was being offered and gave himself to the voice of the lake. Jora attempted to pull him away, but he lashed out and struck her down with a swift punch to the face. He then proclaimed, "You are weak." Within moments he was transformed, becoming half Norn, half bear, the Norn bear. He was now a champion of the dragon that slept beneath the lake's surface. This dragon was called Drakkar, and was a champion of the elder dragon Jormag. Svanir soon vanished into the distance, leaving Jora frightened and alone, questioning her strength. For the curse that had consumed Svanir had also taken away her power to become the bear. Jora assumed that would be the last time she would see her brother. However, his mind had been warped by the dragon's power, and he soon became hostile towards everything. As such, when he wasn't leaving mutilated remains of animals and Norn travellers alike, he would force his way into Norn settlements and outposts and would slaughter all the villagers during the night. Jora knew that she must put an end to the suffering of her people, even if that meant killing her own brother. And so she set out to track down Svanir and put an end to his reign of terror, one way or another. Her only vice was that she kept her brother's identity a secret and simply referred to the beast as the Norn bear. She tracked him far to the east, where she soon came upon the great tower that was well known amongst the Norn, as all were warned away from it for unknown reasons. In passing, Jora noticed a group of humans guarding the entrance to the tower, but did not interact with them and simply continued tracking Svanir. She followed his tracks into a cavern which had a strange circular monument inside. She began to examine the ground for footprints near the monument before, as if by magic, an Azuran along with a troop of dwarves appeared through the monument. She watched curiously as the group seemed a little shaken up and panicked. A dwarf spoke to the Azuran and ordered him to destroy the gate, and then looked over in her direction and froze. The dwarf divulged his understanding of the Norn to his group, stating that the Norn were big and tough and very bad-tempered, and assumed that they would need to fight their way past her. Jora wouldn't normally pass up the chance for a brawl with any race, but right now she had more important matters to attend to, so she offered the group assistance by informing them that there were humans nearby. With that, she left to continue her search, having realised her trail had gone cold. For a while, she searched around the ice cliff chasms before she noticed the dwarf she had spoken to earlier leaving the Great Tower. He approached her and told her of a great threat called the Destroyers and asked for the Norn's assistance. Jora was quite thrilled to hear of such powerful prey for the Norn to enjoy fighting. However, she couldn't help until she found Svanir. Therefore, the dwarf introduced himself as Ogden Stonehealer and offered to help her track down this Norn bear. Not that she needed any help, especially from a dwarf. Shortly thereafter, she picked up the trail again and followed it north towards the Norhart's domains. As they entered the area, Svanir pounced upon Jora and Ogden and began to attack them. Jora was quick to defend herself and struck the Norn bear. It quickly fled. Jora swiftly pursued him towards Gunnar's hold, where she lost the trail yet again. However, there was a Norn within called Gunnar Poundfist, who informed Jora that he was watching from within the camp and witnessed the beast heading towards Drakkar Lake. Jora immediately set out, with a very tired Ogden following behind. As they closed upon Drakkar Lake, the Norn bear showed itself once again and attacked. But again, Jora fought back valiantly and the Norn bear fled defeated, this time heading straight for Sifhala, a Norn settlement. Jora dashed onwards as fast as her legs could carry her, in the hopes she would arrive before Svanir injured or killed anyone in the settlement. Jora arrived just in time to see the Norn bear attacking. She called out to him and he scarpered once again. Thankfully, there were minimal casualties. However, Jora was at her wit's end with the ordeal and was now furious with rage. The settlement owner, Sif, informed Jora that she knew where the Norn bear was hiding out, inside the cave to the west of Drakkar Lake. Jora set out with Ogden and Sif to hunt her brother down. It was not long before Svanir appeared to slow their advances, but with each attempt to stop them, he was pushed back. Eventually, he was cornered. Jora knew what had to be done, and swiftly struck him down, dead. Upon his demise, Jora's bear power returned, and the curse was lifted, for now. At this point, Ogden asked if Jora would be able to help recruit the Norn in the fight against the Destroyers. Jora pointed out that she had her brother's blood on her hands, and her word would carry little weight amongst the Norn because of it. But she recommended visiting Olaf, the second-fold son of Olaf, who was in Olafstead, no less. Jora could not travel with Ogden to Olafstead, for she needed to receive Bear's forgiveness, and so bid farewell and sought out Eagle Fireteller so he could tell her how to redeem her family name.
I call upon Bear for her blessing. I call upon Bear for her power. I call upon Bear for her strength.
I am Jora. My brother erred most grievously. I seek to redeem my family's name.
To rebuild your family's name, you must regain your family's homestead. Yet only tragedy may come from a home built with blood-stained hands. Wash clean your sins. Blood washes blood.
Blood washes blood.
Walk in the path of Bear. Receive her gifts.
Walk in the path of Bear.
You know what must be done. Go with the Bear spirit.
I understand. Thank you.
Eagle spoke to the bear spirit and explained that Jora could only redeem herself by liberating her homestead from the clutches of the Char that had moved in and claimed the land for themselves. Jora understood what needed to be done and set out to the Jora marches to reclaim her home and slay these beasts. With the power of Bear on her side, she made quick work of smashing through barricades in her bear form and ripped the intrusive Char to pieces. Upon reclaiming her land, the bear spirit showed itself to her and gave her its blessing. With her family name honoured once more, Jora travelled to Olafstead to see how her dwarven friend was progressing with Olaf. Upon her arrival, it appeared that he had been busy assisting the Norn in slaying some troublesome destroyers in the area, which had found their way into Nornland via one of the gates she had previously seen. Olaf was pleased with the hunt and offered to tell other Norn of the wonderful prey the destroyers made. Ogden asked that Olaf gather an army of Norn against the destroyers. but it seemed Ogden still did not fully understand the Norn's way of life.
So, my friend, will you gather your forces together to fight the destroyers?
I will gladly tell others what wonderful prey they are.
But will you gather an army?
Norn have no need of armies. We are Norn.
Great dwarf, give me strength.
I know your king, little dwarf. I can send a message to him. Will that do?
Yes.
I will send a message to Jealous Ironhammer. I will tell him to meet you near the human encampment, near your Eye of the North. It will take some time.
I don't know what to say.
Olaf sent a message to the dwarves and asked them to rally their troops. Ogden thanked Olaf and returned with Jora to the Great Tower, which he called the Eye of the North, claiming that he needed to inform the humans of his progress. Ogden led the way into the tower and walked into a room he called the Hall of Monuments, with a pool in the centre. Next to the pool stood a human female who seemed angry and hateful inside herself. Ogden introduced her as Gwen. Shortly after that, the Azuran she had seen Ogden with originally also entered the room, along with another female human who he introduced as Livia of the Shining Blade. He then spoke of war machines that would do their fighting for them, naming them the Golems. Following them inside, and much to Jora's dismay, was a scruffy Jar who appeared to be in good standing with Gwen. He spoke directly to her and offered to assist in the fight against the destroyers with his team that he called his war band. All these words were quite alien to Jora, so she merely stood and listened. If all this wasn't bad enough, the pool in the centre of the room suddenly lit up and showed them pictures. In this picture, they could see a mighty destroyer standing below a finely carved statue that resembled a dragon, which only served to remind Jora of her brother and his untimely demise. The Azuran known as Vex suddenly shouted that he knew the location of the dragon statue and how to get to the central transfer chamber, but also explained that it would be filled with destroyers and not easy to infiltrate. Gwen asked that they all go and rally their troops and march upon the central transfer chamber. Jora was about to ask Ogden if he wished to accompany her, but he claimed that he had to return to the dwarves to complete one final task. Therefore, they all went their separate ways to gather their troops. Upon arriving in Olaf's stead and informing the Norn that she was about to march on the destroyer's nest, stepping forward were that of Olaf Olafsson, Sif Shadowhunter, Egil Fireteller, and Olaf's daughter, Alrun Olafdottir, who was asked not to go, but insisted she went anyway. The Norn party was ready and marched into the caverns towards the central transfer chamber, but not before they came upon a room filled with dwarves, including the well-known dwarven king, Jealous Ironhammer, along with Gwen, Vec, Livia, and the Char she soon found out was called Pyre Fierceshot. Ogden then entered, holding a mighty-looking hammer, which he passed over to King Jealous. As if Jora had not experienced enough new and strange things that day, the dwarves then transformed into stone warriors, all except Ogden, which seemed curious to Jora, although she did not feel the need to ask why. She promptly introduced her party to the others, much to Ogden's disappointment.
The Norn are ready as well.
There are 5 of you?
I thought 4 would be enough. Olaf's daughter insisted she come along.
I will never understand the Norn.
The army was ready, and all marched for the central transfer chamber. The destroyers were strong, and the Norn enjoyed the hunt as they travelled deep into the destroyer's nest. Eventually they made it to the central transfer chamber, where a powerful swarm of destroyers lay in waiting. This battle was enough to make even the hardest of Norn break a sweat, but finally they were victorious. Jora watched as the stone dwarves stepped forward and the king boasted of his might. Jora found this most uncharacteristic of the dwarves, having spent much time with Ogden. But nonetheless, Gwen explained that she believed that the Great Destroyer was the source of the Destroyer's tactics, and claimed that slaying it would cause the others to die.
The Destroyers are infinite, and they act as a single creature.
That's it. What if they are a single creature?
What do you mean?
The Great Dwarf's power is connected to Jalus's followers. What if the Great Destroyer's mind is connected to its minions?
Jora was a little saddened by this revelation, as she would soon lose the chance to hunt destroyers, which had made for such good sports for the Norn. Sadly, the Great Destroyer would have to die, as the other races couldn't handle their enemies as well as the Norn. Therefore, they left the dwarves and the Azuran war machines within the central transfer chamber. Vec then led the way into the Great Destroyer's nest, along with Gwen, Ogden, Livia, Pyre, and herself. The battle was challenging, even for Jora, but she swore that she was only sweating due to the intense heat. After a lengthy battle, our heroes emerged victorious, just in time to watch the dwarves pursuing the destroyers deeper into the earth. With their victory, they returned to the Eye of the North to celebrate. Of all who came and left, it was the Norn who were last to leave, and they only left because the ale ran dry. There was a steady calm for the Norn for a while, but following Winter's Day, a human the Norn knew well called Kieran Thackeray visited the Norn and informed them that he was to ask Gwen to be his mate. The Norn were only too happy to help plan the occasion by stocking up with plenty of ale. The wedding was a great occasion for the Norn, as many were far too drunk to remember what actually happened, which is the sign of a great celebration. It is not certain when or how Jora died. However, she never really did leave us, as she is still honoured by the Norn to this very day for slaying the first of Jormag's minions, and how she went on to regain her family honour. She truly is an inspiration to the Norn, still to this day. Unfortunately, over the years, Drakkar's corruption took hold of many Norn, which eventually went on to create a faction of the Norn that called themselves the Sons of Svanir, in honour of the first brave Norn to accept Drakkar's gift. These Norn believed they were chosen to receive the power. However, it was actually quite the opposite, as the dragon was not giving them power, but in fact drawing power from them. Until in 1165 AE, Drakkar had corrupted enough Norn to give the elder dragon Jormag enough power to awaken from his slumber, and that he did. Jormag arose from his nest beyond the far northern Shiver Peaks. His rise caused great destruction to the local Kodan and forced them to flee south into Norn lands, where they would be forced to make peace with them after many years of war. Jormag's rise caused mighty earthquakes which split the land, causing the northern sea to flood inland, which created inland seas. These seas are now home to the refugee Kodan that escaped Jormag's trail of devastation. Jormag now occupies the lands around Drakkar Lake, and many Norn have reported that they saw Drakkar arise during the awakening of Jormag. The Norn have since rebuilt a settlement for themselves within the old abandoned dwarven settlements. But even though they have lost all they once had, at least one thing still remains: the memory of Jora. The